Welcome back to Just Vetting, the podcast where we sit down with leaders shaping the future of veterinary medicine. I'm your host, Peter Tanella, and today's guest is someone who truly embodies the intersection of innovation, compassion, and creativity in the veterinary field. Dr. Lynsey Rinelli is a working mom, the head of the exotics team at Veterinary, a patent holder, a children's author, the mind behind Lynsey's Pulse Ox, a product she's actively working to bring to life, and not just scratching the surface. From emergency medicine to storytelling, and even writing a biography of a heroic canine officer, Lynsey's career reflects just how diverse and impactful a veterinary path can be. Lynsey, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
Lynsey, let's start at Vets Paramus, where you lead the exotics team.
Yeah.
Emergency medicine is already an intense, and you've layered in this added dimension of caring for birds, reptiles, small mammals, the works. Mm-hmm. What drew you to know exotics in the first place?
Yeah, so my mentor, Dr. Susan Tyson, I worked with an amazing team. There were 4 or 5 clinicians in Mount Laurel, so huge specialty facility, and they really grew my passion for exotics. You know, it was always there, but it just didn't have the chance to really blossom. And I'm so thankful I got to work with that team.
You hear a lot when you ask, your colleagues, what was the driving force, and there is strong mentorship within the profession. You do hear that response quite a bit. Somebody, some mentors made an impact on your career.
Absolutely.
What about emergency medicine? Obviously, you have exotics, and then you have emergency medicine, and we have many clients who work in emergency medicine, and obviously it's a unique field, to say the least. It requires a special person. What's the draw to emergency medicine?
Yeah, so I actually had a very different path and a different story. So it's a good question. I initially really wanted to track for orthopedics. So any fractures, knees, shoulders, that was my thing. But it was a really hard field to get into when I graduated, and a lot of my colleagues were waiting years to even get the chance to do that. So I decided to go into emergency because I could still do surgery. I couldn't do orthopedics, but I could still do something I absolutely love, like endoscopy, surgery, and I could still mentor others as well.
I've talked to Dr. Bessler about emergency medicine and veg in particular. For those of us who go to the annual conferences, the veg booth is dry, brimming with energy. Everybody's excited. There's all stuff going on, and I think they've really captured the essence of made emergency medicine fun again, or you can make a real career out of it, which is special, and it just opens up more doors to veterinarians like yourself and more opportunities.
Absolutely. Like the non-compete is incredible. I hear so many colleagues with the dreadful non-compete, and they have to drive an hour to an hour and a half away, from their home. And it's just amazing that he's created this innovation in veterinary medicine to make it fun again and not so dreadful.
Fun again. Also accessible from, obviously from a scheduling standpoint, where you can, I think you have a lot more flexibility with your schedule, which will kind of lead into some of the other things we're talking about, because you'll have other time to do other things and still be, a practicing veterinarian.
Absolutely. Like, in the past, I was just going to say in the past, you used to have to really schedule vacations and family time months beforehand. But where I am now, it's so much easier to have a family.
It's great. That's
Yeah.
why, listen, that's why they're super successful. And I couldn't wish it upon, a better group, better team, better person than Dr. Bessler. I think it's great.
Mm.
One of the things that really caught my eye too, about you and your work, something outside the clinical setting,
Yeah.
your pulse ox design. What's
Yeah.
the story behind that? Where did that idea come from?
So the dreaded pulse ox story. It's been, I think, a thorn in everyone's side, technician, assistant, and veterinarian for years. And I honestly, I need to make more connections because every conference I go to, I try to speak to someone who could build it for me. I have the patent, I have the design for it. I just need to bring it to life
Mm-hmm.
because the pulse ox works amazing on humans, but when we need it the most during, an emergency setting for one of our patients, whether it's a dog or a cat, it's the most difficult reading to obtain.
So where are you right now in terms of you're looking for another team member to help to kind of bring it over the goal line for you?
Exactly.
You have the idea, you're looking for somebody to help you implement that idea.
Yeah, I need someone to build it.
You never know. Maybe somebody who's listening to our podcast here will give you a call. That's no,
I
it's
know.
but it's the idea. It's kind of the different ideas that you have, which really makes you really unique in who you are. So you go from pulse ox, and now you patented devices, the
Mhm.
publishing pages. You recently launched your first children's book,
Yeah.
which stories I believe inspired by your daughter.
Yes.
It's an amazing milestone. What
Thank
inspired you to tell stories for kids?
you. So really my daughter. Just being at home away from veterinary medicine for, 2, 3 months and just a lot of time to think and spend with her. She definitely inspired, that little niche because it's obviously very different from veterinary medicine.
You think?
You would think, you know what, when I write my records, I could see the similarity because we're an emergency. So we're detailed and concise. We're not trying to tell a big story. We're trying to tell enough to make it make sense to the next person reading it. And I feel like that's how children's books are.
I guess what's the plan? I knew you created a company. What's the
Yeah.
plan? Is this the first of several works, or this is a one and done? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely still developing. So I have the first book, A Morning Big Apple, and then I have the second, and I really want that second one to blow up. And I'm trying to get it out to, every clinic possible that I can to help families get through that grief and loss period.
What's the second? What's the title of the second one?
Goodbye for now. So that's the one that's inspired by the canine cop.
So tell me a little. Can you tell me a little bit about that book?
Yeah, absolutely. So the front half of the book is it's very light and easy, and it's fun. There's a whole perspective from the daughter, who is my daughter Graceland,
Mm-hmm.
as an imagination about her day with her dog Teddy, who's the fallen canine officer. So they go to space, they have fun at the park, they play in the rain, completely using their imagination through the day. And then she also thinks she's a little doctor, which she does do in real life. She has her little veterinary office in my house, and she makes me triage all her stuffed animals. So she notices that something's wrong and she brings it up to mom. And then they go through the process of, okay, what is it like to go into a big emergency hospital? What does it really mean when you see the doctor, going through an x-ray or a blood work? And then what it means as a family to go through the process of having to put your pet down. So it's incredibly sad.
Yeah, well, it's sad, but it's a story that people want to hear.
Yeah,
Um, um, and like you said, if that story can impact one life, you made a difference, right? In terms
absolutely.
of what to expect, for personally,
Mhm.
like many dog owners, we got a dog during COVID. I grew up having dogs, and I
Mhm.
remember getting one call when I was in college from my mother about
Yeah.
our dog and having to put her down. You know, I was a young teenager. I was away at college.
Mhm.
It was impactful, but I don't think nowhere near where it would be right now with our dog, who's 5 years old. And every time I'm laying with her, you know, it's like treasure time because you have a window with them, and I know I'll be devastated. I know my kids would be. Our whole family.
Yeah.
She's an integral part of our family, and there's no easy way of
Absolutely.
dealing with that.
Yeah.
Um, it's probably one of the toughest decisions I thought of when we're
Yeah.
getting a dog. Thinking back on it when I was younger, young man, and when
Yeah.
we had to put our other dog down, it's hard. It's hard to become a
Absolutely.
part of your family.
Of course. So something that was really exciting is the one of the professors on LinkedIn from the University of California in Irvine.
Hmm.
She reached out to me and she asked me if it would be appropriate to use for like a mid-20s classroom. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Try it out because every time I've presented the book to different age groups, even adults love it. So she used it in her class where there's psychologists, there's people tracking for social workers, human medicine, and veterinary medicine.
Hmm.
And she said she across the board got 100% that it was a huge hit, that they loved it. So that was amazing.
And that's got to be rewarding to you, and you're on to something. Listen, anyone who's a pet owner has
Yeah.
to appreciate the impact of that story. It's
Yeah.
something you got to embrace at some point in time. It is amazing how, and listen, that's why um, you know veterinary medicine is so popular because there's so many of us who fall in love with their pets.
Yeah.
They become a part of their family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you offline more about that in ways that we can maybe assist you in getting the message out.
That's amazing.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank
That's
you.
right. Um, looking back on, we talked about having a mentor, and you talked
Yeah.
about just thinking about it. You mentioned something about your daughter, which was interesting. You
Yeah.
know, all of my guests on here who are practicing veterinarians, I always ask them, when did you know you wanted to become a veterinarian? The answers are pretty similar. And
Yeah.
how old is your daughter now?
4.
4, right? So she's
Yeah.
gonna, I think, would fall right into the bucket of, or I think you're gonna. So
Yep.
when did you know you wanted to become a veterinarian? If you did, and then
I would say,
what was there a moment in time or some type of action or interaction that triggered that?
I would say probably about the same time, honestly,
Hmm.
because any little baby bird that fell out of the tree, I was there to try to save it. So
Right.
I feel like I knew very early on, but I was afraid to deep dive into it because it would be the rest of my life. And when you're
Hmm.
young, you don't know what you want to do.
Right.
But you're scared because what if you don't like it? What if you want to do something else? You know?
Right. Right. You the number I always hear, it's like
Hmm.
10 or younger.
Yeah.
There's some moment or some action like you're talking about, and I'm thinking what you're doing with your daughter
Mhm.
and the impact you're making on her, and not that you're pressuring her to go into that field, but she's being exposed to something pretty special that a lot of other kids aren't exposed to, seeing it firsthand. So who
Yeah.
knows if you're developing a future veterinarian, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, my
Absolutely.
middle daughter, out of my 3 kids, she I've talked with her. She always loved math and science, and we talked when
Yeah.
she was in high school about it, even as I got more involved in the profession. And
Yeah.
it's interesting going back to the book you were just talking about. I
Mhm.
think the one biggest impediment for her is having to deal with death, and really be involved in that. She didn't have, I don't want to say the stomach for it, or she just didn't have. She's like, I want to help, but if I can
Yeah.
help, which inevitably will happen, I don't
Sure.
know if I can be a part of that. It was
Yeah.
interesting take on it for somebody. I think educationally she can handle the rigor, but
Absolutely.
just didn't have you need the full package obviously to go into the
Yeah.
profession.
Of course. Absolutely. Because, we always talk about the fact that we go from a room that's a very critical situation or conversation to a room that may be happier, and we have to keep it together for each owner, you know?
Right. This also goes back to what you said, you don't really know what you want to do when you're
Yeah.
younger. And there obviously wasn't that driving moment when she was younger. Hey,
Yeah.
this is something I'm driven to, I want to do or think about pursuing. It was more like, me approaching her and saying, what do you think about this? And you just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So, you never know. She's in college. You just never know. I hope so.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
going back to your journey from Ross University to clinical rotations, internships, now a leader position at Veg. What have been some of your biggest turning points or lessons that you can think about and you may want to share with others?
Yeah. So, honestly, my biggest turning point was my divorce, in all honesty. I felt like it was a long time coming, unfortunately, but at that point in time where, there was finally some kind of resolution, I felt like that's when my books came together. That's when I felt like I can go into leadership. So it was a huge milestone for me.
And it's, and I'm sorry about that you divorced. And I know you and I were talking about it offline before we
Yeah.
came on here. But there's different approaches, someone can take when they're going through,
Yeah.
that type, those types of issues in your life. And you seem to, it almost, like you said, you pivoted and you're leaning into all these other areas, and it seemed like it created clarity for you. Whereas maybe someone else, if they don't have the same type of impact.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've been through a lot of pivotal moments in my life. And, whether that's in middle school when there was a standardized test and I didn't do well on it because I was nervous and they put me in the lower class. So I really had to prove myself. So I felt like throughout my life, there were moments like that where I really had to prove who I was because a piece of paper didn't really reflect that. And it just makes you stronger, honestly. And I really wouldn't change a thing.
Persevere, so
Yeah.
that's what life's all about, right? We
Yep.
get thrown, as you appreciate, softballs and sometimes curveballs. You
Yes,
got to deal with them.
of course.
Where do you see, in your experience, another question that I like to ask all the time, and
Yeah.
where do you see the future of veterinary medicine going? We're here in 2025.
Yep.
Where do you see it? What are you hearing from your colleagues when you're talking about it? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's so much, so many new ideas and so much innovation now in veterinary medicine. And so much of the medicine portion of it has changed and the therapy portion. And I feel like, especially with veg, coming into a hospital, there's either owners that are extremely accepting of the change of being in an open setting and seeing absolutely everything, to, owners that are like, this is just not my cup of tea, and completely understand. It's something scary to watch and something that may not be, what they thought their day was going to go or be like. But the way that it's going, I think, is only up. We're coming into the age of technology still. We're always innovating in that regard with technology, whether it's scribe note to use for our records to just help to take some stress off of the clinicians. And I think, honestly, there's a lot of doctors in specialty branching off. Instead of being in a specialty setting, they're opening their own hospitals, which is nice to see. We're becoming more traditional, like human medicine. I think a lot of clients don't appreciate the fact that they could come into one hospital and see an ER doctor, go to specialty and see the specialist, and get medication all in the same, spot. Whereas humans, we have to go to our family doctor, then get referred out, and then go to CVS or Walgreens to get our meds.
Yeah. Right. No, it's a good take on it. When you look at it, it is convenient, and you're getting an expert, a specialist like you're talking
Exactly.
about. I'm just thinking about you mentioned veg again, and when it's going back to a personal experience, when we got our dog, she was only several months old, and I remember it was the summertime. She's sitting on my wife's lap out in the back on our deck, and she kind of jumped off my wife when she was petting her and kind of hit the deck, almost like on her head, but rolled real quick, and you heard a real loud whimpering, and I'm panicking. So I called up my friend Kristen Lombardi at Veg. I had her on speed dial, and I was over at Clifton within 20 minutes with my dog, and it was just amazing to watch what went on. I was in the parking lot. Somebody came out immediately to my car, took a quick look at her, and said, "Listen, we're going to get you in," but realized that she was okay, but they're going to examine her. I was out there for a while only because of how busy that hospital is. Yeah. But I saw all the trauma, the case. I saw dogs going in on gurneys. I was observing from the parking lot the activity that went on. And then when I finally went in, it was just that reassurance, and you got that she's okay. Got examined like you're talking about, and you're okay. Just keep a watch on her, and you went home, and it was like, wow, it's pretty special that you're able to do that. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, too. No less. And in a place you would never know it's 1 o'clock in the morning there. It was full speed ahead. 1 o'clock in the morning was jamming.
Absolutely.
So, before we wrap, I'd love to hit you with a couple of what I like to call quick fire questions.
Okay.
Whatever comes to your mind first. What's your favorite exotic animal to treat?
Ooh, I would say rabbits.
Rabbits? Why?
Yeah, only because I always feel like I have really good success with getting them to the right place. Meaning if they come in for bad GI stasis, I feel like I could get them through that episode.
Okay. How about one exotic species that you haven't worked with, but you love to?
Ooh, I would love to do dentistry on a tiger. I was a part of one. I was a part of one procedure like that in Louisiana with one of a general practitioner who did dentistry on the local zoo. I thought that was the coolest thing, and I would love to go back and do that.
Right. They obviously put they'll put the tiger out and you're going in, right? I saw something online recently. I don't know if it was tigers or it was lions, and they were on it. They must have been on a massive reservation, and the veterinarians came up. It looked like the one that the animal that they were treating, she may have been out, but her partner was still lingering around pretty close. Yeah. Which I was surprised. I figured they'd have. I mean, you're talking whether it was a lion or a tiger. I would figure it would just be in a pretty secluded area. That's interesting. I don't know if that's one that I would want to do. All right, this is a good one for you, especially for somebody like yourself. If you can invent one tool that would make your life easier as a veterinarian, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, one tool. Magic 8 Ball, because all my owners, want you to have the answer without anything else other than your brain. Don't do any diagnostics. Just whip out an answer.
I have an orange Magic 8 Ball on my desk in my office. An architect friend gave it to me years ago, and it reminds me of a kid. I love that thing. And only if that thing came, you could tell the truth. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. No, you know what? Honestly, I have a better answer for you.
Go ahead.
So we all love superheroes. I always think of Superman when, I'm talking to an owner. They're saying, well, do I really need this x-ray? And I'm like, I really wish I could see right through your patient, but I really can't.
Right.
So that would be incredible.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if you had Superman's powers, I don't know if you want to be a veterinarian. I know you can do a lot of other things, right? Probably flying around is chilling. It'd be great. A lot less stress in the world.
Oh my God, yes.
So amongst all the other stuff that you're doing, I understand you love doing home improvements. What's in a home improvement skill that you're secretly proud of?
Ooh, I just love putting things together. Okay. So I put up an accent wall in my home. We're building. So this is a fun new secret that I'll share with you, but we're building a condo in South Carolina, right near True Blue, for golfers. So I cannot wait to put that together.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. That's great. In all your free time.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
In terms of recreation, and
Hmm.
again, having time, flag football or softball, what's your top pick? What do you love?
I haven't been able to play in so long, and it
Yeah.
makes me sad. But flag football is one of my favorite things to play.
What got you into flag football?
All the boys that lived on my block when I was
Hmm.
little.
Yeah.
I'm an 80s kid, so I was
Right.
always outside, always playing every sport, every single night. So it was myself as like the single girl on a block full of boys.
Right. Well, I'm 10. I got 10 years on you, so I'm a '70s kid, right? And
Yeah,
in my town growing up, when I saw you like flag football, that's
yeah,
where you started as little kid, right? You played
yeah.
and you went out there in your jeans and a t-shirt, and he put this belt on you with these cheesy flags that barely stuck on you. They're
Yeah,
much better
so,
now, and you played, and it was great. And that was like your
yeah,
introduction to a sport, and you're running around on some field that was half rock, half
yeah,
grass, you right, half much, whatever. No, they
exactly.
don't know how good they have it now.
I know they have turf
So
now. I always had a
yeah,
rock in my knee.
yes, always. My knees were using your jeans or jeans, corduroys, whatever you had on. I usually
Yeah,
had a ripped knee. My mom had put 2 or 3 patches on there, whatever. It's good stuff.
exactly.
So Lynsey, though, so really, thanks again for joining me. You're
Yeah,
doing so much from clinical leadership to writing and innovation. I think your story will, it's really going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. Where can people follow along with your projects, your book launch, your book, Pulse that upstates, where can they follow?
yeah. Instagram is best.
Instagram?
So I'm always posting on Instagram or always on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So
And
little
we'll
grace.
drop those links in our
Yep.
show notes.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping we can share that and drive some more attention to what you're doing. I think it's great. I appreciate
That'd be
your time.
awesome.
I know you're busy, and
Yeah.
I just want to wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors. And I hope you
Thank
come
you.
back and join us again down the road with some good updates.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.